There you go. Thank you.
Would automatically.
How you doing, Mark? Good.
Think you're good to go?
Okay, we have quorum. We'll call the meeting in order. Reading and approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. So moved. Second. Additions, corrections, comments. Lacking any, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Bills, communications.
So generally, the same kinds of stuff that you're used to seeing. There's one addition, which is an invoice from Rick Albato that came in. What was the amount on that?
$4,117.50.
But other than that, pretty standard stuff. We did receive all of the pilot payments, which I think will, like Michael will talk about more. So we have some disbursements for those. We received the Patterson land lease and then the Menard oil random payment that comes in every now and again.
Motion to approve the bill. So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Motion made and seconded to approve the bills. Discussion. Comments.
I have a question, please. The
Yes.
Menard oil, what is that?
So at the industrial park, there was an old gas well that we're still getting some kind of royalties from, even though it's been shut down for many years.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay, thank you.
It's like usually $20 every few months.
Yeah, it's significant, but we'll pay for it in some of the packets.
Thanks, thank you.
Further questions?
No, I didn't know. It was there. Sorry.
Is that a question?
No.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Carried. Thank you. Mike, updates.
Okay, as always, you have my written report in your packet, but I always have some verbal items to share with the board here. I have a number of them, so please bear with me. Auditor RFPs, we had set this up at the beginning of October with deadlines due by November 8th. We didn't have any feedback on that. In particular, I believe the strongest reasoning for it was the very end of the year, so most firms are already booked up and taken care of going into the early part of next year. So here's our agreement with DMM, Danable and McKee. Will proceed forward for 2024. That being said, I would advise the board to reissue an RFP in early 2025.
Makes sense.
Okay. Solar UTEP update. We'll have this ready by next month. There was a couple of outstanding items to be worked through to ensure it has all the necessary requirements to go into a resolution for the board's consideration. Quick recap of that. It's basically taking our existing policy for renewable energy projects and saying we're going to work with soil and water on any renewable energy project, determine whether or not it's located on prime farmland versus non-prime farmland, with the intent of trying to drive projects towards brownfield sites or anything that's not being actively used by the ag community there. Moving on, you may have received from me, and I hope you did receive it, looking to set up a sewer stakeholder meeting over the next few weeks post Thanksgiving. And that's really to bring in water and sewer, City of Auburn, do the milk ingredients ourselves, in the town of Aurelia, similar to the discussions we had around the potential water line over in 98 Park at the beginning of the year. Making sure everybody's very clear, here's the project, who's operating it, who's responsible going forward. So it's really just to ensure there's no confusion over anything on any of that there. So hopefully we have that set up. With feedback from everybody in the next few days here, but knowing next week is Thanksgiving, I wouldn't be surprised if it gets pushed around a little bit. A number of updates on ongoing and potential projects. Met with Liberty Renewable folks. Reminder, this is the wind turbine project down in the southern end of the district. About 100 megawatts, 22 to 24 wind turbines. It's a very, very large project. So at the initial kickoff call with Justin Miller the other week, we really just went through the IDA process, a little bit of what that entails on our end, a little more of the mechanics and timeline expectations from them. Anticipate really getting into the heat of discussions with them next year to hopefully have a completed application to move that forward. Sunny's closings, we're still waiting some final materials from them to really set up the close, but I'm still pretty hopeful we'll be able to close prior to the end of this year, just on the agent agreement. In either event, we will still have to close on the pilot agreement with them very early 2025. So hopefully, as I said, we'll close on the agent agreement prior to year end here. Moving over to Finger Lakes Rail, we have had numerous meetings as a 5 to 6 county group to discuss revised terms for a new pilot arrangement with them. They requested 15 years. We, as 5 to 6 counties, have said we're only going to do 10. And that's more in line with projects we all do throughout the various counties. We just had a call yesterday, actually, to go through proposed terms. We're hopefully going to receive updated materials from Finger Lakes Rail over the next week. Once we have that, we should be in a pretty good position to start setting up public hearings moving forward. So the anticipation I have on that project is close early 2025 there.
That's good.
So that's on that one there. Sterling Station Solar. This is the 2 megawatt project up in Sterling. We have sent them a proposed pilot model for their review. We're waiting for feedback on that as well, in addition to what their anticipation of timeline is there. Not as complex as many of these other projects we're working through. Certainly not as high stakes, but it's still in the hopper right there. So moving on from pipeline projects there. Couple of general updates. We did have a meeting with NYSEG last week and had some stakeholders from around the region. Center Safe was there, Tracy and other members from City of Auburn were there. We had a couple of our town supervisors there and another representative from Onondaga County. NYSEG leadership was there. They provided an overview of here's who we are, what we're doing, and really getting into the thick of it. And Tracy, correct me where I'm wrong, is they basically said, we understand there's a lot of capacity requirements going into the future. We don't have the infrastructure in place to support that right now, nor the financial ability to make that possible in a timely fashion.
Yeah, and I heard they're getting a lot of pressure from the state to do a lot of things.
There are,
also.
and they're not the only utility provider that's facing that sort of pressure. They're just feeling it certainly more on our end because we're not seeing as much, at least public investment or their marketing of public investment going into grid updates and transmission line capacity expansion.
Yeah.
So while it was good to sit down with them and hear from them directly, it really didn't, from my perspective, provide a clear-cut way to say this is exactly how we will improve in a short amount of time, other than make sure we're included at the points of discussions.
But I think financially it's very difficult for them. And nothing for nothing, it's at least good to meet and understand.
It did,
Sure.
and that was, as we discussed as a board many months ago, is we knew this was an ongoing issue and we had discussed inviting our area rep to it. And we put that off and said to sit down with NICEAG leadership. So they heard from us directly. There were a lot of good comments in the discussion there. But going back to some of the own issues we've run into with the sewer line and the ordering of generators, if they want to upgrade a substation, the lead times they have for transformer materials is way out there. So they're under similar constraints. And again, that's what made it, in my opinion, pretty disappointing sitting through it. I was really hoping there was a pot at the end of the rainbow. But it was more pointing out state has put in these very aggressive goals without first saying we have a, real serious issue on the front and back end here.
Well, they're also constrained with the rate increases, so there's
Mhm.
no,
Yeah, there was a lot of education on, it was their rate case studies, go through that, so that would, they spent 40 minutes going through that point alone. So what we'll see moving forward, I still think there's a lot of potential with, as much as it can be painful to say, is probably renewable energy projects, because they can scale up quite a bit faster. So if it's co-located with a project that can provide direct power to a plant, that's what a lot of companies are actually looking at right now. So still an option.
those,
You said that there were Onondaga and did you say on state and others were there, knowing that they've got all of these big plans in Onondaga County, like with the micron and stuff like that, they didn't have anything to say as to how they can possibly help with this issue that, we've identified?
So,
NICEAG?
so
What
Micron
is there?
itself is in National Grid's territory, and despite what they actually have a massive substation over there, but they are also, Micron is also looking to get some nuclear power over there as well, and probably some solar to go into. It's a massive energy consuming project. But just putting Micron aside and knowing that sort of industry draws on every aspect of infrastructure. One of the projects we had recently inquired to Cayuga County needed 4 megawatts to start and then to ramp up to 7. We didn't have any site that could accommodate that off the bat, and it's a big concern. So that's where I came away, pretty disappointed from the NICEAG meeting, but they at minimum recognize and heard directly from various stakeholders to say this is an immediate and going concern. As that develops, hopefully we get some better news as more money is hopefully pumped into that. Moving on from that particular item, I only have two other items here for open session. The market study MRB is conducting. They put together a draft so far of some high level demographics, industry development, population trends, regional development, etc. I believe the intent is to have a pretty good working draft by end of the year and completion probably January, February. Okay, so that's moving along pretty well. In relation to that, as shared with the board a couple of months ago, I had noted that the milk plant may have some pretty strong interest in that property. I spoke with Brian Lenny about that just this week. I'll be sitting down with him in a couple more weeks to really hear from him and his team directly as to what that may be. They just brought on a new COO over the last month or so here, so I think they're getting all their heads together as to what could a phase 3 expansion or something related look like. And that, by and large, is it on my end.
I'm sorry, what property were they looking at?
Mall property we own. So that's 60 acres, roughly 20 of which really not developable. That's where our discussions with Doug Wayne have been. I can touch on more recent discussions I've had with Doug Wayne, but I highly advise that is kept in executive session. Happy to answer any questions here.
Thank you. Probably the treasurer.
In the packet, you have the standard reports. Not a ton of activity in October. Just kind of the standard stuff that you usually see in your bills and communications. On the balance sheet, there's still a pretty healthy bank accounts that we've been utilizing. We are now using that Generations Bank checking account as a kind of pass through for pilot payments. So we're keeping kind of a small balance in there, and then we're putting all the pilot payments in there and paying the disbursements out of there, and that will help us track those pilot payments, which is a recommendation after the last audit. So it's that Generations Bank checking that we're using for that. And then for all the rest of our your day-to-day expenses, that's all coming out of the Cayuga Lake National Bank checking. So that's where any of your admin fees will go. And then all of your operating expenses come out of there.
I ask, have there been any contact from the credit union regarding the Generation Bank buyout? Nothing.
Not that I've seen. Our CD with them matures in May of next year. I haven't heard or seen any flags thrown up as far as part of the proposed acquisition. I'm not sure if you have those.
No, that's why I asked.
Your motion to approve the treasurer's report.
I'll move.
Second.
Questions for the treasurer? All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, carried. Unfinished, my favorite, sewer line. Yeah, I was there Sunday and Monday, and Monday they had it working.
Did, so it's been quite a journey since the last board meeting. We had 2 additional startups since the last meeting. The most recent startup went successfully, and a couple of days later, there was an issue with the electric panel and the relays, and I shared with the board via email the updates on everything going there. So they were there Sunday, made the necessary adjustments. What I've heard from that time via Steve, that everything is working now. And I think if I heard properly from Carl, the intent is to continue running the system for the next couple of weeks to ensure there's no additional hiccups. That being said, transfer documents have been signed and notarized from county IDA here. Just waiting for execution of same from water and sewer and as we move forward. I do know, though, there's some outstanding items to be delivered to water and sewer from the contractor themselves. Steve, this is where I think it would be best for you to weigh in. There are a couple of items that I think best for to discuss in executive session.
You want me to end then?
Yep.
Okay,
Yes.
all right.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Board committee and officer nomination.
I think from the last meeting,
Yeah,
this
don't we
was
do that?
largely completed. It's more of an outstanding item to make sure it's on everyone's radar as you're going into your organizational meeting for December. It's listed on here, but I'll just remind you now. The annual meeting organizational is December 19th, noon, Springside Inn.
Okay. New business. MRB administration service proposal.
I'll step in here for items A and B. Both of these items were included in the proposed 2025 budget. The MRB services proposal is the formal agreement that's included in your package to document what that proposal is. Item B is continuing work with me. It's basically just extending it through 2025. I believe in my contract, it's just more of a written extension that says it's capped at the end of 2024. We could just put together a document that says it goes through 2025.
Does that need action?
I
December.
Who drew the agreement up? Is it you or Rick?
did the one.
Who drew the original one up? You or Rick or?
Rick and Justin drew up the original. We punched it up a little bit earlier this year, moving from part to full time, and I have no issues with that.
They can just update it then.
Yeah, that's all I'm thinking, is just making an extension of the same.
Prepare the extension, then we'll approve it next month.
That would make sense to me. Part of what you're nominating and approving, part of your organization next month is positions of officers, staff, contracting members, legal, all of that.
I'm not sure you're gonna get away with that.
That's our copy.
Okay.
And that wasn't me, that was the notary.
Office space update.
Version will be.
This is more of a general item here, continuing to review space, most of which is centered around downtown. Have visited a couple of different areas specific to Joe Bartolotta, showing off some properties, evaluating those. It's pretty tight trying to find the right size that would make the most sense for the IDA today, as well as moving forward. Don't want it so small that, you know, would accommodate me and few of the board members, but if we have a larger meeting or anything else, you need to be able to accommodate that. So balancing that, as well as, you know, what landlords are thinking they can get in terms of price per square foot. So been going through that one there, and hopefully over the next month, we're able to nail down some better options for the board's consideration going into 2025.
I don't know, do we need a large meeting space if we could find offsite?
You could,
Do you think-
the concern and interest I have in moving. One thing for us to have a board meeting here once a month is fine, but as I'm constantly trying to find spaces to meet with clients, that's it.
But a client, you wouldn't need as big a space.
Not necessarily, but it depends on the client and what their team is. The one that really came up back in October was, as shared back in October, it was a Fortune 500 client, had a number of people in the room. Really wanted to make sure the space was professional and large enough to accommodate someone like that. And it's hard to really think about that as we have traditionally been working with our area businesses. So it's
Right.
that's pretty easy, but I think more of where the IDA can and should be looking into the future is, especially as you're considering new sites for acquisition, is you're now going into attraction mode. So you want to make sure you have a well-defined space that professionally promotes Cayuga County and is making sure it's a comfortable space that says we're here to do business.
This space is booked a lot. We can't really depend on it.
No.
Mike has asked me a couple different times about using this room. It's Doug keeps it booked up. But you know, like
Mine.
you guys, it's,
Yeah,
you know,
well, I think, you know, the county building space is tough. In general.
Based on what you've seen so far, where you've gone, any, you know, are you hopeful? Have you seen things that the space is right and maybe the price is right? Have you-
There's a couple of different areas that appear to have some pretty good potential, but have not hit that magic one yet that says this is the perfect space. It's either been too small or just too big. So it's trying to zero and hone in on what that is. And we do want to keep it within the Auburn area because that's where most of our clients really know, because it's still in our address is being located to State Street. It's just historically ingrained in a lot of people's minds. So there's that, and it's centrally located for outside clients coming into town as well. So we're trying to find that. It's been a little bit of an uphill battle, but I'm again optimistic we will find something.
Evaluation forms.
This, due next month, everyone has a copy in their packet. Please bring it to the next meeting.
Can we fill in?
I know.
Yeah, you can fill it out now if you want.
Yeah, but didn't we fill it out last week, last month or no?
No. We did have this as an open item, what the governance committee agreed to earlier this year is we should have a mid-year evaluation. And we did have the form in, and then it was discussed, that let's not go through the form, let's just discuss some of the goals and objectives, see where we are, and then actually complete the form for year end, so it's documented, and then we can review it.
Your motion for executive session. Move it.
Purpose being,
Pending litigation.
I'm getting like two, I.
So where was the real property?
We'll leave a.
is there a second?
5 seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
All right.